الرب إلهنا وإياه نعبد، والتوراة شريعتنا وبها نؤمن، فلا نعترف بهرطقة النظام الصهيوني، فقوانينه لا تنطبق علينا. سنمضي على طريق التوراة أبدا في النار والماء، وسنمشي على طريق التوراة أبدا لنقدس اسم السماء. حراس المدينة أو الناطوري كارتا من الداخل. معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا.
We are against diabetes because we are just. We are against diabetes because we are just.
هذا نشيدهم وناقوسهم، وهم حراس المدينة أو الناطوري كارتا باللغة الآرامية. هي جماعة دينية يهودية أسست عام 1938 في القدس. يرفضون الصهيونية بكل أشكالها ويعارضون وجود إسرائيل. وجودهم الأساسي في القدس المحتلة ولندن ونيويورك، وينحدرون من أصول هنغارية وليتوانية. هذه الحركة تقتنع بأن اليهود ممنوعون من الحصول على دولة خاصة بهم حتى مجيء المسيح. منذ قيام إسرائيل وخصوصاً في الفترة الأخيرة، يعتقد العالم أن هناك علاقة بين إسرائيل والشعب اليهودي. ولذلك وبما أن ناطوري كارتا يطبقون الشريعة اليهودية وبدون تغيير، يعرضون آراءهم بشأن اليهودية والشعب اليهودي والأرض المقدسة والعلاقات بين الشعب اليهودي والشعب العربي والحركة الصهيونية والحقائق التوراتية من خلال زعيم هذه الجماعة العالمية والناطق باسمها الحاخام يزرول دوفيد فايس والحاخام دوفيد فيلدمان. Rabbi David Weiss, welcome to Al Mayadeen and to our show, The Inside. Sir, actually, I want you here to start by focusing on the establishment of the Nauturi Karta and what was the purpose of this establishment.
With the help of the Almighty, I pray to the Almighty to bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, that I may be worthy of conveying His message and so sanctify His name and bring peace to the world. Amen. The establishment of Nauturi Karta was simply to protect the Jewish community, the Jewish people, from this terrible invasion of Zionism, which fell upon the Jewish community in Palestine around over 100 years ago, the beginning of the 20th century. People think that Zionism started with the creation of the State of Israel, but that is
it was way before that.
Way before. They came, the concept of Zionism was around 130 years old, with some Jews who had gone astray from serving God, from being religious Jews, simply were looking for a means of remaining respectable in the Jewish world, and yet not having to serve God and follow the religion. So what they were out after is to transform Judaism from religion, subservience to God, which is all that Judaism is, subservience to God, to accept His rule and to follow His laws. And these people decided that instead of that, they are going to transform the concept of Judaism into a base material nationalism, void of godliness. They may allow, in their nationalism, they may allow religion, supposedly freedom. They're going to have freedom of all religions, supposedly, but that is only to be in order to complement their democracy, their supposed democracy, which is all questionable, very questionable. But that is the concept of Zionism. Zion refers to Zion, which is the city of David, Jerusalem, basically. So these people, Theodor Herzl, Ben Gurion, Jabotinsky, the fathers of all the cohorts were out to totally uproot from the Jews their connection to God, and that there should be a nation amongst nations have a strong military, an Olympic team, and so forth. When they did this, so they first wanted to go to other lands, Uganda and so forth, lands that would be lush and productive, but then they realized they need massive support from the world, money and so forth. So they knew that to get the Jewish backing at large and the Christian backing, they'll go to Palestine and they'll claim that this is a Jewish concept.
So it's not based on religious basis, but rather on political basis.
Totally contradictory, diametrically opposite from religious, but they fused onto this the concepts of an aura of supposed holiness, a cloth of religion, in order to be able to con people into giving it support that is a godly concept that's going to have a state. And really, ironically, it is forbidden, according to the Jewish law, for the Jewish people to create their own sovereignty. Since the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, we were put under oath by God, 3 oaths, one not to return en masse in large numbers to the Holy Land. We wait ultimately for when God will make a miracle, all humanity will recognize God, and then we will all go up and serve God, then we'll be the Mashiach, the Messiah, all very interesting concepts. We believe then we will have our nation, but never a state of Israel. In other words, this rebellious, heretical state, that will never be. But
Sir,
yeah,
I just want to hear, we're going to elaborate on the notions of Zionism, Judaism, and Jewishness, the differences and whatever. But here I want to see, how do you put your beliefs into practice? Regarding the fact that you're not in occupied Palestine, you're not in Israel, you're abroad.
Right, but the Jewish nation around the world feels responsible because this Zionism has hijacked and taken the identity of the religion and claiming that they have a right to create a state, and the compounded evil of this state is that it wasn't in a land void of inhabitants. It was a totally inhabited land of mostly Muslim people and then Christian people and a Jewish God-fearing community. And they came along and they decided to create this state there. So they're doing so, they're breaching every concept of the Torah, not to kill and not to steal and so forth. And they're doing it in the name of God and the Torah. So me as a Jew, and living in the United States, or my colleagues in the UK and or Australia, which are, all the large Jewish communities, and of course in Jerusalem and the rest of the occupied Palestine, we feel the responsibility. We know it is our responsibility to stand up and tell the world that what is being done is totally criminal against God and has no iota of legitimacy in the Torah. On the contrary, we pray to God every day for the speedy and total and peaceful dismantlement of the state. Getting to your first question, Nauturi Karta, the Jews immediately, the rabbinical authorities in occupied Palestine, immediately, when they saw this danger at the beginning of the 20th century, when the Zionists started trickling in, and then it started coming in greater numbers and buying land.
Do you think the dismantlement of Israel is plausible now?
Is it possible?
Plausible.
Plausible.
Possible.
Possible, yes.
Probable.
Every word is yes. Why? Because, first of all, that is the only true solution, because in the Torah it says that if you will go against the words of God, it will not be successful. Nobody can refute the fact that for well over 60 years, Zionism, coming with all their supposed miracles from God, has been a constant calamity for not only the Palestinians, for the Jews. They have created an endless river of bloodshed. They haven't had 10 years of peace. They're the greatest factor of exacerbating anti-Semitism around the world. It's just one tragic happening, and therefore the solution is really simply the dismantlement of the state, that we can once again live together as Jews have been living and enjoying the friendship
integrated
of Muslim
into
people.
society,
so,
and the whole community.
So that would
be
whether it can happen, because people say, "Oh, you're dreaming." Because first of all, if you follow, we believe that God rules the world, and if you follow Him, it will be successful. And we also know that the vilification of the Muslims and the Arabs, stating that they have an ingrained hate for the Jews, and we can never live together, or even stating, because of the terrible crimes committed to the Arab and Muslim population for so many years, that they will never be able to reconcile with the Jewish people. That is both false, because we have personally, me and my colleagues have personally visited with the leaders of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of every group and every Muslim Brotherhood, and the president of Iran, and all these people have been vilified and has been named as the terrible monsters, and they have all embraced us.
But sir, this is why, according to many critics, that the fundamental Muslims just use you actually, the Nauturi Carta, as a propaganda tool to show the world that even the most ultra-Orthodox Jews are against Israel.
They have not. We have been we are being used by the Zionists, if anything, the Jewish people and the Jewish name, and that is not refuted. That they're using the Star of David. They're using the name when it's totally and clearly against the will of God. We are forbidden to have a state, as I stated. It's a decree of God that we're not to return en masse. We're not to make our own state. So we wait ultimately for the God's revelation. So let me just finish this point. So this is clear. We're forbidden to have a state. We're forbidden to kill. That is clear that they are abusing somebody else's name. When we have gone and met with these people of different communities and the people in the Muslim and Arab world, we have met with people that has a history of hundreds of years of coexisting and providing a safe haven for the Jews, where Jewish communities have flourished in every single, and nobody can refute that. So somebody to come along and say, oh, they're using you, is just one of their repugnant ploys and a system of vilifying other people in order to gain legitimacy in the eyes of the world. Fact is there. Go for yourself and go to Egypt, go to Iran, and come to Lebanon, and you will see that there was Jewish communities that were God-fearing, openly Jewish.
Go to Iraq too.
And Iraq, and they flourished there, and there was no human rights groups to protect us. Why? If there would have been an ingrained hate between these religions, that would have been the time to wipe out the Jews, God forbid, and that never happened. What has changed? Changed is the development, the creation of this ideology called Zionism, which is stating we have this land, it's our state, and with that creation, they have added to this mixture of Jews, Muslims, and Christians something that has created havoc, has driven a rift between us, and that it should explode. So you see, since Zionism is around, that is when the problems are. Remove this impediment to peace, and then we can live once again in peace. I was just going to take out a cut before you. We went to visit in Gaza. After they were
with Hamas, yes.
We met with, and we were embraced openly. They said, we have nothing against Jews. He could have easily have said, this is our area. No, he said, we would love to live together. This was there was a press conference with all the major press that didn't report it, though. But this is the fact. This is what they said. We have nothing against Jews. These leaders constantly say, and the individuals, the people, the laymen, that they would issue a fatwa. They clearly say, we want to live together.
However, sir, just to get through to this point, you were criticized because of your participation in the Iran conference back in December 2006, which was about the Holocaust. You were criticized by people from your own network, from your own group, and this is what is looked at as the moderate branch of the Nauturi Carta. So what can you tell us about that? Because you are considered as the radical branch.
Right. That is very simple. I mean, we are dealing with in a danger of dying, God forbid. We're talking about a situation where the Palestinians and the Jewish people are constantly falling from one catastrophe to another, from one Nakba to the next. And we all agree, Nauturi Carta is certainly so, but many other groups, the majority of the truly religious around the world, the truly religious certainly, but even the regularly are anti-Zionist, and we agree that the state of Israel is forbidden according to the Torah. The question is, what should be the approach that we should rid ourselves, God help speedily and peacefully, of this terrible calamity is called the State of Israel. So our approach may be radical, but our approach is that although is a position that we feel is the right position, and we can that's a point of we could discuss. But let me just explain. Being that the Zionists have the power of the media, they had labeled that conference as a Holocaust denial conference.
Yes.
I happen to be a child born right after the Holocaust. My grandparents were killed in the Holocaust. My first cousins were killed. My uncles and aunts and so forth were murdered in the Holocaust. And everybody, that is a fact. So it's in our blood, the Holocaust. We went there because the concept of this conference was that the issue is that if the Jews were murdered by the Nazis, the Palestinian people should not be punished.
Blamed for that.
And it's a very logical issue. And it was supposed to be many scholars.
They shouldn't be paying the price for others. Yeah.
The Zionists are simply taking the Holocaust as one of the ploys to intimidate other people. They're saying it's called the guilt ride. They're saying you were quiet by the Holocaust, so if now you're not going to help us create a state. That they use the Holocaust as a business. But the truth is, the Holocaust conference was supposed to be full of professors, scholars on the issue of the Holocaust that were supposed to come, that were intimidated not to come, where we were going to discuss the issue of the Holocaust, and come to which I was the second speaker after the foreign minister, and I got up there and I said, we are confident that the result of this Holocaust conference will be the recognition of the millions of Jews that were killed, yet there should not be an excuse to punish the Palestinians, and our people, our relatives who died would not accept that they died for God to be Jewish and to punish the Palestinians.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi David Weiss, and we're going to stop now for a short break. But after the break, we're going to discuss more some of the major points of the Nauturi Karta. A short break, and we'll be back. Stay with us.
Jewish people, that's first of all, sadly, but that in no way means to say that we are very few in people. There are masses of Jews.
How many followers do you have?
Well, we don't have actual members, but we represent communities worldwide who are very strongly opposed to the State of Israel, not from today. It's going back, let's call it generations. It's going back decades. A strong opposition to the State of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the first part, Rabbi Weiss was talking a bit about the beliefs that you believe in and the actions that you take. Can you elaborate more on the activities that you pursue in this sense?
Well, basically
And how were you welcomed by the people through these activities?
Very good. Basically, we work on two levels. We work amongst the Jewish communities, which we happen to be very successful, and I would say in recent years, in the last couple of years, even more than before, we find that, at least I find that people recently are much more receptive than years back for many reasons. Some of the reasons is people see that the promises of Israel don't lead anyone to any nice future. But the education that we provide and other groups provide really helps people to understand what their own tradition is, what their own philosophy should be, and people, even those who were confused by Zionism, slowly but surely they start to understand what's going on.
Rabbi Feldman, how do you describe your relationship with the Palestinians, and how was this total support of the Palestinians gaining full sovereignty over their land? How was this welcomed and received by Jews worldwide?
Well, first of all...
And also by the Jews in Israel.
Okay, but first of all, the question should have been how this was received by the Palestinians.
By the Palestinians, yes.
By those who supposedly hate us, and those who supposedly would never
yes.
never accept Jews.
Yes.
And we just see this.
Because, excuse me, in the first part, as Rabbi Weiss said, that Jews were integrated in the Arab societies, so there was nothing like this hatred towards the Jews. But because of the political issue, that's why they were driven into this place. And, it was said that Arabs hate the Jews.
But what is surprising that we witnesses, and this is one of the greatest messages that we bring home from the Muslim communities back to the Jewish people. The fact that still and all, after what happened to the Palestinian people, which is very sad, and which we experienced and we saw in the Gaza Strip and in other places, the terrible disasters, the terrible pain that was done to the Palestinian people, still and all, these Palestinian people are so warm to the Jewish people. They have nothing against us. Simply, they are concerned about the occupation and about the oppression against them, which is makes very much sense. But on the other hand, how this reflects within the Jewish community, well, there are many communities who are so happy that this work is being done. Not every individual is ready to come out in public and to face the pressures of Israel and to face intimidation and so on, but they are so glad and so happy, and they do whatever they can to support these activities to continue. For example, we are just now in Lebanon. I'm getting emails every day. What's happening? What's news? How is the work going? People are eager to get back the messages and to see and to hear that these activities are being done, are being successful, and reaches the right people who it's supposed to reach.
Now, the Natura Carta forbid any kind of participation with Israel and any of its subsidiaries. So the anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews who live in Israel, they do not vote, they do not participate perhaps in some activities or take money from the government, and they also, to a certain extent, some of them, they don't use the Israeli currency, and they call for the dismantlement of Israel. How on earth do they keep on going? How do they make their living? And if this is the case, what are they still doing there?
Good question. How they survive? Believe me, I ask the same question. For example, there's one colleague of ours that just now escaped Israel, the hands of these criminals, and I'm very friendly with him in the last couple of weeks, and he tells stories how they exist. It's not easy. It's a great sacrifice. It's really tough. Why they don't leave? They would gladly leave, and some of the people slowly, while time passes, people
It's maybe because of the name, the Guardians of the City. That's why they're staying there.
Some. Some of them want to stay there. In other words, there were some people that, out of principle, didn't leave, even though they didn't agree with anything, and they boycotted Israel totally. And they chose to remain there, not to leave. In other words, not to leave this conflict. Just they should win the battle. But on the other hand, people are leaving slowly. The past time, another person is leaving, and this is going on already for decades. But it's not easy to leave a family, to come in a new country without anything is also a challenge. It's also a...
What about other rabbis? What was their position? Do they believe in the same thing that you believe in? I mean, you said that most of what, or all of what you believe in is based on the Torah, okay? So those religious also rabbis, they know the Torah. So why are they behaving in a different way?
This is very important. The vast majority of Jewish leaders, ever since the beginning of the philosophy of Zionism, going back 100 years, were in a very strong opposition to the state of Israel. We are just now in the process of reprinting a book, The Rabbis Speak Out. This is 130 years of Jewish religious opposition to Zionism. These are religious leaders from all over the world, Europe and in Palestine. There was a handful of Jewish rabbis that were paid by the state of Israel, by the philosophy, by the movement of Zionism to support them. This is in no way the representation of the Jewish people or the Jewish community. Unfortunately, today, we would find people that would stand up and claim themselves as Jewish rabbis and they would support the state of Israel. You would find some radicals as the settler movement, Ovadia Yosef, which is a very, very radical representation of a Jewish rabbi.
Allow me here to ask you one last question, please. You know, always Zionism is linked to Jews. But however, you know, Judaism and Jewishness and Zionism are all different. Can you please tell us about that quickly, if I may?
Judaism is a religion. It has nothing to do with nationalism. It's simply serving the Almighty and practicing the commandments of the Almighty. Zionism is not even close to what Judaism is. It's something totally different.
It's opposing the Creator.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with religion. And basically what Zionism did is they transformed Judaism from a religion and simply transformed it to a total new philosophy of nationalism, not only void of religion, but anti-religion, which is totally the opposite. And it's so sad that we need to explain this, and we are thankful to your channel that we can have once more an opportunity to reach out to the people. Please remember, please understand, this has nothing to do with Judaism. This is the contrary of Judaism. This is not what Judaism is as a religion, and this is not what Jewish people did practice or practice today. You have that Zionist element that sticks to this new philosophy.
Yes, Rabbi David Feldman, thanks a million for being in our show.
You're welcome.
إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع موضوع جديد وشخصية جديدة، ودائما نقاربها من الداخل من فريق العمل، فريق عمل من الداخل. إلى اللقاء.